Hey ladies, I just wanted to take a few minutes to recap our final night of the Well Watered Woman book study for those who weren't able to be there, and honestly, just to reflect together on what the Lord has been teaching us through the study. This last chapter really kind of brought everything together in such a meaningful way. So the big picture of everything was one of the biggest takeaways from the study is that the well-watered life, it's not about constantly blooming. It's about being faithful, just faithfully abiding in Christ. And so we talked about how so much of life isn't the visible blooming moments. It's the hidden seasons, the planting, the rooting, the growing, and waiting. And those moments aren't wasted. They actually matter deeply. And so we kind of just reflected on that. There's that whole section in there where it talked about how every moment matters. One of the lines that really stood out was a reminder that today's decisions affect tomorrow's destination, and that today's faithfulness affects tomorrow's fruitfulness. And so those things that you're doing each day, that is so convicting in the best kind of way, because it means that even the small, just those ordinary, unseen little moments of our lives are shaping us for something eternal. And the truth of the matter is that most of our lives are made up of those quiet, unrecorded moments. And God is at work in every single one of them, that He is molding us and fashioning us, and He is using just those little acts of just daily obedience and steps of faith. So then we kind of talked about when growth feels slow. So we also talked about how growth doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes blooming takes a long time. Sometimes we don't see the fruit at all for a season. But that doesn't mean that nothing is happening. God is still working beneath the surface, strengthening our roots, building something deeper than what we can see. And so sometimes when we're just striving just to make those daily decisions just to obey and to those daily acts of faithfulness, and we wonder, is anything going to ever come of this? As you're laboring to do the hard thing and parenting your kids and molding and shaping, and it's hard to imagine what that will be someday when you're in the midst of it. I loved the perspective that we had, because we had such a variety of ladies in our study, and so we had some older and younger, and it was just great to hear from our older ladies that had been there that kind of talked about how when they were raising their kids, it was, those days were hard, but now looking back, how they realized just how good those days were. Even the hard was just a beautiful time that they, can sit back now and just, you could see the beauty of it, but in those moments, when we're in the moments, it feels like things are never going to grow, and we're just faithfully serving, and we don't see the fruit of our labors so often right away. And so we have to just continue, just persist, and just keep going. And we talked about, so instead of focusing only on the outcome, just focus on that faithful process, being faithful in the process. And so just living out each day, each moment that you have been given, because we've only been promised today. I think we mentioned that in one of the other chapters. And so just living in that, making the most of each day, being faithful in just our daily lives and our daily decisions. And that's hard. It's hard in the moment. And that's okay, because we're growing. We are works in progress. And so we just keep striving, and we keep trusting that, that even though we can't see, we're building something. And this is the upside down life, is kind of what she kind of talked about it. And that's the way the world is, and the way that the life that we're called to as Christians are completely different. So this was the theme that came so clearly, as that the Christian life is backwards. Where the world says we're to pursue comfort and seek recognition and protect ourselves, Jesus calls us constantly to surrender, to take up our cross daily, to deny ourselves. And we talked about how that cross that we're to daily take up, that's the instrument of death. We are to be dying to ourselves, dying to our thoughts, the way we think should be. We are to be surrendering totally and wholly to all that God has. And we do this with humility, and God is calling us to be gracious and giving. And so even though that looks like foolishness to the world, it's actually the path to true life, the true life that we were meant to live in Jesus. And so we were reminded that that life lived for Christ, if we live this life that is lived for Christ, it's never wasted. All of those things that you do for Jesus are not wasted. It doesn't go unseen. There's nothing wasted. Even when it feels slow, even when it feels hidden, even when it feels hard, God uses every moment of faithfulness. And one of the most encouraging truths from this night was the well-watered woman doesn't look like someone far away or unattainable. She looks like you. She looks like you wherever you are, patiently and faithfully just serving the Lord as you seek Jesus. It's just that daily life. So the chapter ended by lifting our eyes to eternity. We were reminded that this life is not the end of all things. This life is not the final garden. One day, everything broken will be restored. There will be no more drought, no more struggle, no more, but there would only be fullness of life in Christ. So we will no longer struggle with sin. We will no longer have all these troubles that we face here. These troubles that seek to destroy us here, eventually will all come to pass, and we will be with Jesus in eternity. And all of these light and momentary afflictions will just seem like nothing. They will be nothing. We will just be in the presence of the one who created us. And that is the hope that we all hold on to. But the call is to be, in the meantime, while we're here, in our existence on this earth, that we are to be faithful in the middle, looking forward to what is coming. So if you can take anything away from this study, let it be this: you don't have to have it all together. I feel like that is the most freeing thing. That I feel like the Lord led me to the study, not just for y'all, but for me to hear that truth. You don't have to have it all together. I think so often we think we have to have it all together. And I just went to a women's retreat this past weekend, and I was reminded I don't have to have it all together, because the beauty of it is that Jesus, we are little cracked pots. We have this treasure in clay jars, and that treasure, that message is Jesus Christ. And we are broken and we are messy, but that is who God uses. He uses us who are broken and have been hurt and feel like there's no way he sees us. But sister, I'm telling you, he sees you. And if I want you to hold on to that, you don't have to have it all together. You just have to trust the one who holds it all together. And that is the message. That is the hope that we have in Christ. And if you don't know that hope, you don't really know that hope, I will be glad to walk with you in that. And you don't have to come perfect. In fact, he uses those cracks. I loved it. There was this image that we had in the retreat that I went to, and I shared it with our ladies last night. And if you think of a flower pot, if it's all together, the light there's only one direction, right, that the light could go. If you were to shine it at the bottom of that little hole, it could just go one place. But if it's cracked and there's cracks everywhere, you shine the light through it and it shoots off in all those directions where those cracks are. And that's kind of like us. We're those cracked pots. And because we are broken, and we've, have those cracks and those things that we struggle with, and all of those things, God uses us through those. So we're pressed and crushed and perplexed. God is working through us. And so when he shines his light, the light of Jesus shines through us, it radiates his glory. If we just trust him, and we just are obedient, and we're faithful. And that is just the hope that we have to hold on to. And so you don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be in a blooming season. You could just be in that planting season, that planting, or that watering, that waiting. So often I feel like life is in this like waiting season where it feels like we're just waiting for something, right? But instead we need to live in every one of those moments and just be faithful wherever he has us, and to stay rooted in Christ. Trust him in those ordinary moments. Trust that he sees you as you are, teaching your kids, as you are doing the laundry, as you are cooking meals, as you are just trying to encourage a friend and love your husbands, and that he is in those moments. He is in all of those moments. And so just trust that you just got to be faithful with what is right in front of you, because nothing done in him is ever wasted. And so this final line that I just want to say is that I have just loved walking through this study together. I'm so thankful for all the ladies that were able to attend, and I'm so thankful for all you ladies that didn't get to attend but have been watching these videos. I know, like I said the other week, that it's really blessed me just walking through this. These reminders, I think, are so needed, because we live in a world that tells us we have to be perfect. Especially as Christians, I feel like we feel this pressure to just have it all together. And if we don't feel like we have it all together, or look like we have it all together, then, we're going to feel, I know I've felt judgment, because I don't have it all together. And I know I've been the topic of conversation before. I've had those, like, where, people are talking about you, and it hurts, but at the end of the day, like, are you faithful to what God has called you to? Not the comparison, not the measuring yourself up to anybody else or any other standard than God's standard. And here, God's standard comes with a whole bunch of patience and a whole bunch of love and a whole bunch of grace. And so you give grace to yourself because he's giving you grace. And you give grace to others, extend that grace. And your life will not be wasted. He doesn't waste a moment of your graciousness or your faithfulness or your gentleness towards others. Those are the things that are not wasted in this life. Joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Those fruits of the Spirit, let them dwell in you richly. Let his word dwell in you richly. And live this well-watered life. And one of the things we loved, we talked about in the book, or in the study group time, just that realization that we're all works in progress. We're all just wanting to do this better and failing daily at it sometimes. But the Lord is gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love. And so we must hold to that hope and that truth and keep persevering with our eyes fixed on Jesus. And so I pray that would just encourage you and bless you. And I am praying for you and long for you to just grow in your faith. So thank you for taking this journey with me and the Well-Watered Woman. And I look forward to the fall. We will do another study. Not sure yet what we're going to do. I have a direction I'm thinking of. But I will let y'all know when that comes. So for now, take care and God bless. Bye.